Meet Smarty, the easiest to implement and most accurate address intelligence suite on the planet, offering you the #1 address verification service that securely processes billions of addresses daily. Easily integrate Smarty's reliable API to efficiently clean data, lower shipping costs, and ensure top-notch user experiences, all with legendary free support. See for yourself why people are simply bananas for Smarty.
Today's webinar is about how every insurance company can improve operations using Smarty's property attributes, a new feature we've added, and we're really excited to dive into this. All right, so our presenter today, we have Ryan Muir, one of our product marketing managers with us. We also have Brent Frankham from our product team. He'll be taking some questions for you, and he'll be doing some of the behind the scenes work. So again, feel free to use that Q&A and the questions panel. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Andrew. So a little bit more background on me. I'm a product marketing manager here at Smarty, but I also, up until last year, was a licensed insurance agent for a P&C insurance provider as well. So I worked pretty heavily with underwriters, brokers, agencies, and even program managers. So yeah, I have a little bit of understanding of how insurance teams and companies end up using property data. So all right, that's enough about me. Let's talk about Smarty's latest product, address enrichment, and more specifically, the property data. So we're going to take a look at how insurance companies can benefit the most. And first thing we want to talk about is what is it? So our property data kind of takes a holistic look at the data that can be found on a property, whether that's the structural information, locational information, the amenities, and things like that. What attributes are available? We have a lot of attributes, about 350 of them. There's ownership information, mortgage information, parts of the building, whether it's a deck, a balcony, the elevation of the property. There's a lot that goes into it. Okay.
Worth noting that that's Ryan's house. Just kidding, it's not.
Yeah, not quite. So address data and insurance. So we all know that addresses are crucial for the insurance industry. And it really touches every part of it, from program development and underwriting compliance to like claims and eligibility and determining premiums. But let me ask you a few questions. First of all, how often do you get applications that come through with missing information?
There's a real question. We're hoping for people to respond here.
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure, you can, please feel free to chat your questions over, or answers to these questions over. I want you to think about them. How often do you discover the information you were provided is inaccurate? Now, this can be a big one, especially with insureds filling out applications on their own. And then how many times has an insured person accidentally given you wrong information, or maybe even not known the answer? Some of those questions, especially on property apps, can be really tricky for an insured to get the answer to right away.
Well, I know that on the marketing perspective, the answer to some of these questions, we don't necessarily get applications, but we have forms. I mean, I think pretty much any business has forms asking for information, and people give erroneous information all the time. Whether it's an email or a phone number or an address or data about them, we don't get the best information. And I'd imagine that you're going to see a lot of the same kind of response in the insurance industry.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that. And so with marketing, of course, we ask for a lot of emails and addresses, or emails and names and things like that, job titles, like you're saying. But with insurance, it's even more tricky, because then we start looking at like, how far are you from a fire hydrant? What's your elevation, like square footage of a house? Maybe more people know that one, but just again, there's so many questions that are really hard for people to maybe know off the top of their head. So again, this brings me up to a big question, that is, how accurate is the property information in your current book of business? Is it it makes you wonder a little bit, knowing how inaccurate forms can be. Maybe it even brings up some frustrations in your current organization about the way location data is handled, about the way you bring it in. It reminds me of how many times underwriting departments had to get after brokers and account managers to ensure the data was right, and make sure they were collecting the correct information. Spend a lot of time on the phone contacting clients to get that info. So let me jump into our property data attributes. So if any of those questions struck a chord with you, this is where the address enrichment can be a lifesaver. Our property data aggregates the property attributes, both commercial and residential, into one place where you can access them. Basically, it's very crucial information. And here's kind of a breakdown. We have 150 structure attributes, data about the actual building, again, commercial, residential, and then 60 locational attributes, 130 financial attributes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break it down. We're going to go into each of those just a tiny bit, and then we're going to go into some use cases afterwards. Property data location information.
Now that picture is Ryan's house.
That's where
That's
my
the
dream
one.
house, right?
Okay.
Rivers on both sides, plenty of fish. Be great. The first one I want to talk about is this. So you look at tax jurisdictions, subdivisions, structural location. So geocoding, you may be familiar with. You can find the exact location of a structure, or you can find the parcel. There's different levels of it. Smarty prides itself on rooftop geocoding, so we can say here's the roof of the primary structure on the parcel. But there's more that goes beyond that than just knowing, yeah, it's here. This is the right place, and that I'm insuring. We want to know what's it made out of. Like, again, how high is it? It's especially important to consider when you look at risks, such as flood zone, maybe lakes. How close are they to those? Seashore, how close are they to that? Maybe fire zone, something like that. So when you overlay structure information or location information with the geocode, then you can get a more full picture with that. Next up, we have property structural. This is 150 data points plus. Again, this one's super helpful. It's kind of what you see on a property application a lot of the time. So it takes me back to like some C classes I took as an insurance agent. And we had people get up there and talk about how we need to know what was in between the walls and, you know, where the fire hydrants were, like sprinklers and things like that. Now, and it was very heavy on making sure we had maybe physical visits if it was possible. Sometimes that's not possible, but physical visits to the location to see what was there. But sometimes that's not always an option to go physically see it. One instructor had told me, you know, pull it up on a Street View product or something like that and take a look at it from the Street View and try to see what's there. Of course, asking your insured questions to see what's there as well and see what they know. But that leads to bad data, leads to problems. Even a best case scenario, you know, how much can insured know about this structure? And can they really answer those questions on your property apps?
Question, Ryan.
Yeah.
So the data that's coming through on this with the property data tool, is it specifically saying this is flood zone, yes, or what kind of information in that regard are we going to be able to get?
Yeah, so this is where we recommend overlaying like our property data with weather and disaster information, and then you can be able to get a more full picture. We'll talk a little bit more about upcoming releases that we have. For property data, this is a very big product this year, so there will be additional data sets that are released as well.
So it isn't necessarily a yes, no flood zone.
Yeah.
But let's say you've got a large parcel. Instead of saying this parcel is in a flood zone, yes, you can use the property data and the rooftop accurate geocode to say, well, the home not in a flood zone.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you can see the flood may not be in the actual flood zone and at a higher risk than maybe another home nearby.
Okay, great. And then you talked about roof type and material.
Yeah.
This might be a question for Brent. I'm not sure, but where is the roof type and material based on? Is it AI looking at rooftop images, or what are the kinds of data sources that we can, I guess, how trustworthy based on the data sources are these?
Yeah, so we refresh our data monthly, and we do get a lot of it from the county and local governments as well. So that's kind of where we're pulling that information in.
Okay, excellent. And then if we're looking at the square feet of the interior of a home, is that full square footage or square footage of like the footprint of the house?
Yeah, so we do have the full square footage, and we also have like square footage of the lot. And I think we have it at the level as well. So we kind of break it down into several different smaller components, but you can get the overall if you need it as well.
Beautiful. Thanks. Sorry for interrupting your flow.
No, no, go for it. You're good. The next big one we're going to talk about is financial data on the property. So this is a very versatile set for insurers. I can give you insights to both the current records on the last financial transaction on the home, as well as looking back at the property's history about 5 years. You can access actual market value, assess value, prior sale amount. So you can really use this to assess the financial condition of the building and look, what is this going to cost me from like a replacement cost, or potentially for other scenarios that we're going to go over here in a little bit, where you can say, okay, here's how much this building was sold for on the last transaction, and account that into what may happen for like a catastrophe or something like that. The other thing to note here is we went over locational and structure data. So you can purchase structural, financial, and locational all in the same bundle, but you can also, if you just want the financial, get that separate with Smarty. So you can choose just financial information if that's the most helpful for you.
Maybe it's me being a non-insurance ignoramus. How likely is it for insurers to need all of them as opposed to just like property data?
So looking at it, I think there's valuable information in having all of them, honestly, especially that structure data with all the information about the home or the office or commercial area. Like knowing that is some of the hardest information to get from an insured a lot of times, and to be accurate more specifically. And so
Sure.
having that is great. I would think that it would be beneficial for most carriers, especially to have all of this information.
I feel like property value is probably one I might want to fib on an application for.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in saying that? I never would. I'm just saying that's the kind I
mean,
might be interested in.
People may, you never know how people are thinking about their property for sure. And sometimes it may be nefarious where they're actually going and putting a wrong value and they know that. Other times maybe it's just an inaccuracy. So I know, for example, places like Idaho and Utah, the housing market has just been booming and prices have been skyrocketing. They may not genuinely know what this housing market looks
May have
like
changed
right
in
now.
the last month.
Yeah, it could very much have changed.
Are these the data here, is it residential only? Are we talking residential and commercial?
It would be residential and commercial
Okay.
information in the data set, and we will be able to indicate as to whether it's a commercial or residential property you're looking at.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's jump into some use cases. So obviously we've kind of been talking about it already, but the pre-fill of applications is a really big one. Again, just getting that accurate data. Having worked closely with underwriters and program managers, I know it takes a lot of time to make sure those are just perfect to fit, the risk that we're willing to accept. And it's hard to make it easy for brokers and agents and even insureds to fill these out and understand what we're asking for. So there's some questions you can't know the answer to without talking to your insured, such as their business personal property coverage they want, adjacent exposures, prior loss info, and you've got to talk to your insured for those things, and they should know the answers to those. But for everything else, that's where this property data comes in, and you can fill out the information with feeling more confident about the amount of risk you're accepting. The other thing is we do verify each of the addresses as they come through. So it is a verified property.
Thanks to Smarty's address validation tools.
Address validation tools and geocoding. Yeah. So again, I think a big use case for this property data, and this again, Andrew, to your point, would involve all of the data sets that we offer right now, is catastrophe modeling. So I have up here a map of 2023 billion-dollar weather and climate disasters. You can see, there's tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, fires, and This is where, again, taking property data and overlaying it with weather data is a really useful way to get the most out of Smarty's tools. It can play a key role in making sure you have the right data at the right time. You can identify properties based on their location, estimate the cost and impact in the future, and it's really helpful looking again at that historical data, such as this chart here. And you can kind of see which properties may be most at risk. Another one, again, so if you've been in business for a while, and that most insurance companies have, evaluating current book of business is a very big good use case for property data. We're going to start with fraud. With property attributes, you can, again, you know what's in the structure, you know what it's made out of, you know the last sold value, the assessed value, and you can kind of look at how this works with your underwriting guidelines and with the claims team for accuracy, so that when a claim comes through, you are actually paying the right amount or assessed at the right amount, and you know what was there. I'm going to talk about something here in a little bit, and we'll relate back to fraud. But again, it's if something was added potentially to the property that enhanced its value, like as a construction project, maybe you would like to know that as well. Next up, we have undercharging. So again, looking at your current book of business, how long have you been renewing these policies for? 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Have things changed? And then you can use comparative market analysis and replacement costs to estimate this, what the risk actually is on this particular policy or on all the policies you have in your book of business. You can look and maybe make some adjustments to the premium being paid. Underinsured. So again, let's talk underinsured. Let's say you have that policy that's been on your books for 5+ years. When you first took it on, let's say it was a home, just a drive approach. There was no garage or anything like that in there. So with that, you've been renewing and renewing. It's been fine. Well, last year they built a garage, and they told the city, they went through all the proper channels to build it, but it slipped their mind that they wanted to have this on their insurance policy. So you can see that come through and see, oh yeah, it looks like there's a garage that's been added here. How does that going to impact their insurance policy? How does it impact the risk you've taken on, their exposures, that type of thing? Finally, we have ineligible and excluded. So again, is it owner occupied? That's a data point we have. Are there hazardous home features? Did they add a hazardous home feature? Maybe add a pool in there or something like that could contribute to the amount of risk you're assuming.
My mom always said that a trampoline was a hazardous home feature.
I myself sprained my ankle on those things, so it's definitely a hazard. And the actual age of the property, seeing how old that was. Next up, we have customer profiling. So once you've kind of assessed your current book of business, the next thing you may want to take a look at is customer profiling. You start by standardizing the addresses. Again, Smarty can help with that if that's something you're interested in, standardizing, verifying them, and discovering whether they're commercial or residential. Something you already do, great. You're ready to go after you've got those standardized. Next thing you want to do is enrich your data. So you can enrich it using the property attributes. Again, everything we've talked about up to this point, identifying how those attributes match to your clients. And then the real key here is then you can ID similar clients that or areas that may have similar clients, loan to value, for example, or total value of the home or business that is in question. Where else in the United States perhaps can you find a similar market? And once you have that market, the next step, of course, is to devise some strategies to take this and sell it and market your insurance policies to them. Next up is claims. So one you may not think of as much might be the claim. So everything that we have here, again, can be turned into a claim situation. So we can verify claims and take a look at, was it an eligible claims situation? Was the damage verified? What was the extent of the damage? You can take a look at what the property data said was there, and then as the adjusters go out, they can see compare it to their report. again, it doesn't matter whether it's cash value or replacement cost. It's great to understand the condition of the property at the time the loss occurred, and being able to have confidence that it is accurate. So again, verifying location and financial details is crucial here. Assessment of damage. You want to make sure the construction materials, the construction type, severity of the damage, and again, working with the adjuster to get what they found versus what was in the property data.
So to be clear, the property data isn't assessing damage.
No, the property data is not assessing the damage, but you can take a look at what was there prior to the loss occurring, and then have the adjuster look at it and say, okay, here's what I found, here's the damage that I found, and you compare and see, what condition it actually was in prior to the loss.
Up to the last check, I guess, right? The last time you
the
checked
last check
against
that we have on
data.
there. So that's really where you'll find value in it. And again, we do refresh these monthly, so we try to stay on top of things. Again, same thing where we're going to talk settlement calculation. What's actually there, what was the loss that happened, what does Smarty say was there with the property data, and reconciling that information together. And then, just risk analysis. Again, you can probably see how that's going to work with the context of the claims and looking at the weather data and things like that. And then finally, disaster response planning. Know where your policies, your insureds are, and where your policies are, and see, in the event of a disaster, what does this end up looking like for us from a financial perspective? So how is Smarty so accurate? Smarty is exceptionally accurate. A big reason why is we're always updating our data, as we've been talking about, and monthly basis, and we're connecting the address with the property data through geocoding and with the use of Smarty Key, which is a persistent unique identifier that helps us relate the information in property data to the addresses. Let's check those out a little bit. So property data is parcel centric. So right now we're 95% accurate on a rooftop as far as identifying that primary structure on the lot. But again, we're talking locational data, like information about the lot. So property data is parcel centric, but we've also, through our geocoding, been able to give you the exact rooftop 95% of the time. And that is crucial information. You know where that primary structure is, and then we relate everything through there.
This kind of comes back to that the flooding example we talked about previously. At the parcel centroid, let's say that this house is down a steep hill from the rest of the property. If you go from the parcel centroid, it might be at a much higher elevation, and then you would mislabel that according to your own data.
Yeah, you may mislabel that. Maybe there's a river back here on the back of the property, and you're maybe 500 feet higher or something up here. There's a big hill where there may not be quite as much risk. Or
like a leaky volcano.
A leaky volcano from our ad, yeah. Something like that might take place as well. Let's see. So rooftop geocoding is the gold standard for everything. Then that's how we get the results. Smarty Key, okay. So we like to use the example here of how addresses change using a local street that was previously called Cougar Boulevard or Bulldog Boulevard and is now Cougar Boulevard. Basically, addresses are always, well, not always, but often changing. And maybe there's also non-standardizations and things like that. Smarty Key is able to relate back to those non-standardizations or the previous names of the streets and say, okay, this is the same property, regardless of what was being typed in. And it's fairly stable as well, because that way we just relate to all the different names and ways of typing out an address. And the persistent unique identifier does persist through our geocoding to our property data. And it's a very crucial thing that helps us give you the most accurate data. It can save you, cost and automate a little bit of your verification process. And it ensures with, integrity in our data. And the nice thing is too, we can give you a level of accuracy with this as well. Okay. So now I'd like to take you through a quick demo of the property data tool. This is kind of something you can look at and what information will come out. click over here.
All right, today we're going to take a quick demo of our Smarty US property data tool. So to do this, we're going to use our free trial, which is available at smarty.com. You can message our team and just through a contact form and say, hey, I'd like a free trial if you'd like to try this for yourself. So I've already got that set up and I'm on my dashboard. From here, I'm going to go down to Tools, and I'll be able to see the tools from Smarty that I have access to. We'll scroll down. Property data is in the bottom corner here. Give that a click. Okay, so here's our property data demo tool. So let's take a quick tour of it before we actually submit an address. And we have up at the top the types of data that we can query. We have our principal data set and our financial data set. You can see the number of lookups we have. So each trial comes with 15 lookups. I've already used a few, but let's move on down. We've got our free form. So this means you can type in an address and have it be predicted, and then you can select it. The other way to do this is if you already have the Smarty key, be it through geocoding, or if you have a list of addresses you've already verified, you may be able to access that as well. And you can type in the Smarty key. So for us today, we're just going to use our free form. And we're going to type in this address right here, 56 Union Avenue, Somerville, New Jersey. Now this feature uses our autocomplete. It immediately starts predicting it. If that's something you're interested in, be sure to mention that to our sales team as you're going through your trial. Next thing we need to do is select our data sets. So you can choose one or both, and you can choose that for each of your lookups. Just remember, whatever you have selected will use a lookup. Okay. We're going to do both, and then you hit submit. All right, as you scroll down, you see the data that was returned. We have our Smarty key right here. We have the data set name, so property, and we have our subset principal. Financial similar, it's just down below. So let's see, we have our building square foot. We have deed and document information. We have elevation in feet. We have our exterior walls right below that. Just a lot of data here, and you can see there's just so much information here. You can probably see how it'd be useful for you already. The next thing is our financial data. Again, kind of same setup. Smarty key is the same, remember, because it is just how we relate the address to its data. And as we go down, you can see like the assessed improvement percent. You can see the exact address. You can see lender information, deed information, ownership transfer dates, prior sale amount, tax assessed year. A lot of data here. I know I didn't touch on all of it, but I think it gives you a good idea of what you can expect. If this is something you're interested in, again, please reach out to our team. You can do that through our contact form or through our phone, and just give us a call. Tell the experts who answer that you are interested in Smarty property data, and they can take care of you. So thank you again. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, today we're going to take a quick demo of our Smarty US property data tool.
All right, it restarted. Then we can get to hear two Ryans.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a demo of our free trial of our property data tool. Of course, the property data tool, you can access it through an API as well, and that's probably the preferred method for most insurance providers and insurance companies. But to experience it just kind of in the raw there, we do have a free trial with 15 lookups for you to experience. Again, you can access that from our website if that's something you're interested in.
I do want to mention just a second on here. The output in that demo was all in code and stuff. And I think that's because, well, not I think, that is because we primarily are an API. Like you're going to be pulling this into your own data systems.
Yeah.
If you purchase this property data, we don't necessarily expect you to come to smarty.com and run every single address. You would plug it directly into your tools, and your tools could add that to your readouts.
Yeah, that's correct. We are an API-based product. This is just kind of a quick way to kind of see what the output may look like. Again, with custom addresses that you plug in yourself. So why Smarty and why Smarty now? I want to talk a little bit about this. Smarty's property data is competitively priced and it gets cheaper per lookup as you use more lookups. We also have an option to filter down to 5 to 50 attributes, depending on if that's something you're interested in as well. Lightning fast. We process billions of addresses daily and without a stutter. We have redundancies upon redundancies to make sure that we're always up and running. We have great uptime as well. We're simple to start. Yeah, we have legendary support team. When you call Smarty support team, you're going to get a real person the first time. There's not even a phone tree. So they get rave reviews on like G2, Gartner, things like that. People love our support team. Plus the documentation is super clear, super simple to use and read. And then finally, Smarty is cloud native. We're hosting the data and doing all the data cleansing. You don't have to worry about dealing with flat files, anything of that nature. Upcoming releases, we're going to release census block and tract information very soon, within the next probably week. Political boundaries are coming up, and then later on we do have weather risk, and one that we're working on as well will be commercial business information, I believe, as well. Finally, if this is something that's interested to you, let me introduce you to Jeff Hanks on this slide here. He is our Director of Enterprise Partnerships. He also has some experience in the P&C insurance arena. He very much understands what insurance carriers are looking for. Again, you can just shoot him an email or scan that QR code, which will take you to his LinkedIn to connect with him. Very helpful. He can answer any questions you may have. Thanks, Andrew. That's about what I have. Do you have any questions?
So to get that free trial to those 15 lookups, is that accessible via the website, or do I just need to email Jeff and say, hey, I want some free lookups?
Yeah, no, that's good question. Both. You can go on the website on our pricing page and under property data and select a free trial there.
Okay. And that'll add it to my account if I already have one. Otherwise,
yeah, you have to set up an account.
Okay.
Otherwise. But again, Jeff, is a great option as well. He can get you taken care of.
Jeff is pretty great.
He is.
We didn't get to hear from Brent today, but he answered a lot of questions via text, so I'm glad he can type. That's good. Thanks for joining us, Brent. Thanks for joining us, Ryan, and thanks everybody who jumped on the webinar. We hope that you got out of it what you were hoping, and we'll send out the recording later today. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
Everybody.